If you are divorced and you are at least 62 years old, I need you to stop what you are doing for the next 12 minutes, because there is a very real chance that there is a Social Security check sitting on your former spouse's record right now, a check you are legally entitled to claim, and not one single person at the Social Security Administration is ever going to call you, write you, or send you a letter to tell you it exists. That is not how this system works. The system waits for you to ask, and if you never ask because nobody ever told you that you could, the money you were owed just quietly stays where it is, month after month, year after year, while you get by on less. Today, I am going to walk you through exactly why this happens, how to find out if it applies to you, and the precise steps you take to claim what is yours before another month slips by. Stay with me all the way to the end, because the last step is the one almost nobody takes, and it is the only step that actually moves money out of the government system and into your bank account. If you are not subscribed yet, do that now and turn on the bell, because the rules around Social Security, spousal benefits, and divorce shift almost every year. And when they shift, nobody from the government sits you down to explain what it means for your life. That is exactly what this channel is here to do, so let me get into it. Before I explain the rule itself, let me tell you about something that I think about often. There was a man named Walter, retired, living outside Akron, who had been collecting his own Social Security for about 6 years. Every month a modest check came in. He had worked hard for it, and he never thought to question it. He had been married once, for 19 years, divorced in his early 50s, and he had simply assumed, the way most people assume, that when the marriage ended, any connection to his ex-wife's Social Security ended right along with it. Why would he think anything different? Nobody had ever told him otherwise. Then one afternoon, a neighbor who had spent years working in a benefits office happened to hear his story over the fence, and she asked him one simple question. "How long were you married?" 19 years, he said, and she told him that he had very likely been leaving money on the table for the entire time he had been retired. Walter's situation is not rare. It is, in fact, one of the most common and most expensive blind spots in the entire retirement system. And the reason it keeps happening is the same every single time. Nobody tells you to look. So here is the foundation of everything I am going to explain today. And I want you to hold on to it, because the rest of this video builds directly on top of it. When you are married to someone for a long enough stretch of time, Social Security treats that marriage as something that still counts, even decades after it legally ended. The benefit you earned on your own record does not disappear, and neither does your claim on theirs. There is a specific provision written into federal regulation that says a divorced person can collect a benefit based on a former spouse's earnings record. And for a great many people, especially anyone who earned less than their spouse during the marriage or who stepped out of the workforce for years to raise children or care for a parent, that benefit on the ex-spouse's record can be considerably larger than the one they are collecting on their own. More than 4 in 10 Americans approaching retirement age have no idea this is even possible. They believe, like Walter believed, that divorce closed the door. It did not. Now let me show you the actual rule, because this is where it matters, and this is where you find out whether it applies to you. To claim a benefit on a former spouse's record, a handful of conditions have to be true, and they are not complicated. The marriage had to have lasted at least 10 years. You have to currently be unmarried. You have to be at least 62 years old. And the benefit you would receive on your former spouse's record has to be larger than the one you would receive on your own, because Social Security pays you the higher of the two, not both stacked together. If all of those things are true, you may be entitled to a benefit worth up to half of your former spouse's full retirement benefit. Half, on a record you may not have thought about in 20 years. I want to slow down on that 10-year rule, because it is the single most common reason people miss out, and it is also the most unforgiving. The marriage has to have lasted 10 years. Social Security counts it from the date of the wedding to the date the divorce was finalized by the court, and the line is exact. If your marriage lasted 10 years and 1 day, you are inside the door. If it lasted 9 years and 11 months, you are not. And there is no rounding up, no appeal to common sense, no consideration of the fact that you were together far longer before you ever signed the papers. The clock is the legal marriage, start to finish. And here is the part that catches people. Time you spent separated before the divorce was final still counts toward those 10 years, because what Social Security looks at is the legal duration of the marriage, not how long you actually lived under the same roof. So if you are sitting there doing the math in your head right now and you are landing somewhere close to 10 years, pull out your marriage certificate and your divorce decree and check the actual dates, because a few months one way or the other is the difference between nothing and potentially half of your former spouse's benefit for the rest of your life. Now let me add the second layer to this, because this is the part that turns a lot of people's frustration into genuine disbelief once they understand it. When you claim a benefit on your former spouse's record, it takes nothing away from them, not $1. Your former spouse's check does not shrink. Their current husband or wife, if they remarried, does not lose a cent either. The money does not come out of their pocket. It comes out of the Social Security system itself, which calculates your benefit completely independently from theirs. And here is the part that genuinely surprises people. The Social Security Administration will not notify your former spouse that you have claimed on their record. They will never know unless you choose to tell them. There is no letter that goes out, no phone call, no notification of any kind. You do not need their permission. You do not need their cooperation. You do not need them to sign a single form. In fact, you do not even need them to have filed for their own benefits yet, as long as they are at least 62 years old and you have been divorced for at least 2 years. Read that again slowly if you need to, because for a lot of people who went through a difficult divorce, the assumption was always that claiming anything would mean going back, hat in hand, to a person they spent years trying to move on from. It does not. The system was built so that you never have to speak to them at all. Last spring, a woman named Dorothy shared her story in a retirement forum, and it stayed with me. She had been divorced for almost 30 years, married originally for 12, and she had been scraping by on a small benefit from her own limited work history. Because like a lot of women of her generation, she had spent the better part of 2 decades at home raising 3 children while her husband built his career and his earnings record. She wrote that she had spent years assuming she was entitled to nothing from that marriage, that the divorce had been final in every sense, including financially. It was a younger relative who finally sat her down and walked her through it, the same way that neighbor walked Walter through it over the fence. When Dorothy finally went in and claimed on her former husband's record, her monthly benefit went up substantially, and she said the hardest part was not the paperwork. The hardest part was sitting with the realization of how many years she had gone without, simply because no one had ever told her the door was open. She said she wished someone had explained it to her the way a friend finally did, in plain English, across a kitchen table. That story is not an edge case. It is the rule, not the exception, and it has a very particular shape for people who were the lower earner in a long marriage that ended in divorce. So I want to be direct with you about something, because I know some of you watching have already been collecting your own benefit for years, and you are starting to wonder if you have been missing out this whole time. If that is you, I am not here to make you feel any kind of regret. What I am here to do is show you that the door may still be open right now, today, and that there may be a meaningful correction waiting for you the moment you walk in and ask for it. But before I show you the steps, I have to give you the honest qualifications, because anybody who skips these is not being straight with you, and the details are where people either qualify or they do not. The first one is remarriage. If you remarried and you are currently married, you generally cannot claim on a former spouse's record, because the rule requires you to be unmarried right now. But, and this matters, if that later marriage also ended, whether by divorce, annulment, or the death of that spouse, your eligibility on the earlier marriage can come back, provided that earlier marriage met the 10-year rule. The second qualification involves your own benefit. Social Security is not going to pay you your benefit plus half of your former spouse's benefit. It pays you the higher of the two. So if the benefit on your own record is already larger than half of your former spouse's, claiming on their record does not add anything, and you simply keep your own. The provision helps the person who earned less, which is exactly who it was designed to help. And the third thing you need to know affects anyone born after January 1st of 1954. For most people in that group, when you file, Social Security automatically gives you the larger of the two benefits you qualify for. You no longer get to claim only the spousal portion while letting your own benefit grow untouched in the background. The system simply pays you the highest amount you are entitled to in that month, which for many people is the simplest possible outcome. But you should know that is how it works before you walk in expecting to choose. There is one more situation worth mentioning, because it comes up more than you would think. If you were married more than once, and more than one of those marriages lasted at least 10 years, you are allowed to claim on whichever former spouse's record gives you the larger benefit. You cannot claim on 2 records at the same time and stack them, but you do get to pick the one that pays you the most. So if that describes your life, and for plenty of people it does, it is worth finding out which record actually works in your favor before you file, because the difference between them can be substantial. So here is what I want you to do, and this is the part of the video you should be writing down, because this is where it stops being information and starts being money. The first step is to find your 2 key documents, your marriage certificate and your divorce decree. These are what Social Security uses to confirm that the marriage lasted at least 10 years and that the divorce is final. If you do not have your divorce decree anymore, and a lot of people do not after this many years, you can request a copy from the clerk of the court in the county where the divorce was granted. Call them, ask how to order a certified copy, and they will walk you through the cost and what they need from you. Start that process early, because the paper is the part that takes the longest. The second step is to get your eligibility confirmed and your benefit estimated, and you do not have to guess at any of this. Go to ssa.gov or call the Social Security Administration directly at 1-800-772-1213 and tell them plainly that you believe you may be eligible for a divorced spouse benefit and you want to find out what you would receive. They can pull the numbers and tell you whether claiming on your former spouse's record pays you more than your own. This is a phone call or a visit that has put real money into a lot of people's lives, and it costs you nothing but the time it takes to make it. The third step is the one almost nobody takes, and it is the only one that actually changes your check. You have to apply. The benefit is not automatic. Even though Social Security has your marriage in its records somewhere, even though the money is sitting right there in the calculation, the government does not send it to you on its own. There is no automatic letter, no surprise deposit, no correction that happens quietly in your favor. You have to file the application either online at ssa.gov, by phone at that same number, or in person at your local Social Security office with your marriage certificate and your divorce decree in hand. Until that application is in, the door is open, but you have not walked through it. The day you file is the day the money starts becoming real. Now I have to tell you something about timing, because it changes how soon you should move on this. A divorced spouse benefit, like every Social Security benefit, is reduced if you claim it before your own full retirement age, and that reduction is permanent. It does not catch up later. If your full retirement age is 67 and you claim this benefit at 62, the amount you receive is cut by roughly a third, and it stays cut for the rest of your life. To receive the full amount, the full half of your former spouse's benefit, you have to wait until your own full retirement age to file. And unlike your own retirement benefit, there is no bonus for waiting past your full retirement age on a spousal benefit, so there is no reason to delay beyond that point. What this means in practice is simple. There is a window that is right for you. It depends on your age and your situation. And the only way to know where you stand inside that window is to get your numbers in front of you and look. Every month you spend eligible and unclaimed past the point that is right for you is a month of money you do not get back. I want to stay with one more thing before I let you go, because it is the heart of all of this. The Social Security Administration is not your enemy. Most of the people who work there are decent people trying to do a hard job inside a system that is enormous and old and built on decades of rules layered on top of rules that almost nobody fully understands. But that system was never designed to look out for you. It was designed to answer the questions you know to ask. It does not volunteer what you are owed. It does not chase you down to hand you money. The benefit on your former spouse's record could sit there, untouched, for the entire length of your retirement, and the system would never once send you a letter to mention it. The burden of knowing falls on you, and the only way you ever claim what is yours is by knowing it is there and walking in to ask for it. So, if you are divorced, if that marriage lasted 10 years or more, if you are 62 or older, and if you are currently unmarried, then there may be a check on your former spouse's record waiting for you right now. Find your marriage certificate and your divorce decree. Get on the phone with Social Security or get to ssa.gov and ask the simple question, could I be receiving more on my former spouse's record than I am receiving on my own? Then, if the answer is yes, file the application, because nothing changes until you do. And do me one favor, send this video to one person you care about who is divorced, who is retired, and who has no idea that any of this is possible. It takes 10 seconds to share, and for the right person, that 10 seconds could mean hundreds of dollars a month for the rest of their life. Money the system was holding all along and never once offered to hand over. That is what this channel is here for. I will see you in the next one.